The scalding tea dripped down my blouse as I stood frozen in my mother-in-law's pristine kitchen, the burning sensation nothing compared to the humiliation coursing through me. Margaret Bradford stood before me, her designer outfit impeccable as always, lips curled in a sneer as she watched me fumble for paper towels. "Look at you, can't even afford proper clothes," she spat, gesturing at my simple outfit. "Living in our guest house, eating our food, dragging my son down with your silly little tech business. When will you admit you're just another gold digger who got lucky with my William?" I dabbed at my shirt silently, willing myself not to react. The irony of the moment wasn't lost on me. Just 3 hours ago, I'd sat in a sleek downtown office, signing the final papers to sell Innovati, my artificial intelligence startup, to one of the biggest tech companies in the country. $8 million. The number still felt surreal. But Margaret didn't know that. Nobody did, except my lawyers and the buyers. Even William, my husband, was still in the dark. I'd wanted to surprise him with the news tonight. "Nothing to say for yourself, Olivia?" Margaret's voice dripped with contempt. "Usually you have some excuse about your company making progress. What is it you supposedly do again? Playing with computers?" I straightened up, meeting her gaze. "Artificial intelligence solutions for healthcare, Margaret, as I've explained many times." She laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "Right, and yet, you're still living in our guest house because you can't afford rent. I warned William about marrying beneath him, but did he listen? Now look, stuck with a wife who can't even contribute to household expenses." The past 2 years flashed through my mind, endless nights coding, rejection letters from investors, doubt and fear. Through it all, Margaret's constant jabs and William's unwavering support. We'd chosen to live in their guest house not out of necessity, but because William insisted we save money while I built my company. His faith in me never wavered, even when I doubted myself. "I've never taken a penny from you," I said quietly. "We pay rent for the guest house, buy our own groceries." "Pennies," she interrupted. "My son could have married Carolina Matthews. Her family owns half of Boston. Instead, he picked up some scholarship girl with delusions of being the next Steve Jobs." The burning on my chest intensified, but I remained calm. In a few hours, the press release would go live. The acquisition would be public knowledge. Everything would change. "I think I should go," I said, gathering my things. "William will be home soon." "Yes, run away. That's what you're good at. Just like your mother ran away and left you with nothing." Margaret's words hit their intended mark. She always knew exactly where to strike. I paused at the door, turning back to face her. My mother may have left, but she taught me one important thing before she did. Never let anyone make you feel small. "Get out!" Margaret shrieked, grabbing another cup of tea. "Get out of my house, you freeloading trash." I closed the door just as the second cup shattered against it, tea seeping beneath the doorframe. Walking back to the guest house, I pulled out my phone and saw the email I'd been waiting for. Press release scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Inside our cozy living room, I changed my shirt and examined the red marks blooming across my chest and neck. They would fade, but I knew tomorrow would leave more permanent marks, not on my skin, but on the careful facade Margaret Bradford had built around her perfect world. William found me there an hour later, curled up on our worn sofa with my laptop. His face darkened when he saw the burns. "Mom," he asked, kneeling beside me. When I nodded, his jaw clenched. "That's it. We're leaving. I don't care what she says about helping with the down payment on a house. We'll figure something out." I caught his hand, smiling. "Actually, honey, I need to tell you something. About the company." His eyes widened as I explained everything, the months of secret negotiations, the final sale price, the future possibilities. When I finished, he sat in stunned silence for a moment before breaking into that brilliant smile I've fallen in love with. "I always knew you could do it," he whispered, pulling me close. "Should we tell Mom and Dad?" I shook my head, thinking of the press release scheduled for tomorrow morning. "Let's wait. Some news is better delivered over breakfast." As we sat there, planning our future, I touched the tender spots on my chest where the tea had scalded me. Tomorrow, Margaret Bradford would learn exactly what kind of woman her son had married. But tonight, I had everything I needed: success on my own terms, the man I loved, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that sometimes justice serves itself. The next morning, I took extra care getting dressed. A crisp white blazer, tailored black pants, and the one luxury I'd allowed myself last year, a pair of Christian Louboutin heels. As I applied concealer to the fading tea burns on my neck, I heard William's phone buzzing incessantly. "It's starting," he said, showing me the screen filled with notifications. The press release had just gone live, and my LinkedIn profile was exploding with congratulations. TechCrunch had already picked up the story. Innovative AI acquisition. Healthcare tech startup sells for $8 million. Right on cue, the front door of the main house slammed. Margaret's shrill voice carried across the garden. "William. William, get over here right now." I touched my husband's arm. "Ready?" He grinned, taking my hand. "Let's give her the good news." We found Margaret in the kitchen, her perfectly manicured hands shaking as she held her iPad. Robert, my father-in-law, stood behind her, looking shell-shocked as he stared at his phone. "What is this?" Margaret thrust the iPad at us. "Some kind of joke? Your little startup selling for $8 million? This must be fake news." I took a seat at the kitchen island, the same spot where she'd thrown tea at me yesterday. "No joke, Margaret. The deal closed yesterday morning. Innovative AI is now part of MedTech Solutions." But, she sputtered, her face flushing. "You live in our guest house. You wear the same clothes for years. You drive that terrible old car." "It's called being practical," I replied calmly. "Every spare penny went back into the company. That's how you build something valuable." Robert cleared his throat. $8 million. Congratulations, Olivia. That's incredible." "Thank you, Robert." I smiled at my father-in-law. Unlike Margaret, he'd always been civil, distant, but civil. "This isn't possible," Margaret insisted, her voice rising. "You're nothing but a scholarship charity case. I looked up your background when William started dating you. Single mother who abandoned you, community college transfer." "Mom," William's voice cut through her tirade. "That's enough. You've spent years looking down on Olivia, treating her like she wasn't good enough. Well, guess what? While you were busy judging her background, she was building something extraordinary." Margaret's face contorted. "She must have cheated somehow. There's no way." "Actually," I interrupted, pulling out my phone, "would you like to see how?" "I have a presentation I gave to the MedTech board. It explains how our AI technology is revolutionizing early cancer detection. Though it might be a bit technical for you. Lots of playing with computers involved." The dig landed. Margaret's mouth snapped shut, her face turning an interesting shade of purple. Robert stepped forward, ever the businessman. "The guest house. I assume you'll be moving out?" he asked. "Yes," William answered. "We've actually had our eye on the Mitchell estate. You know, the one Mom's always talking about. The colonial on Maple Street?" Margaret's head snapped up. "The Mitchell's house? But that's the most expensive property in the neighborhood. I've been trying to get into their social circle for years." "I know," I said sweetly. "They're lovely people. We had dinner with James and Helen Mitchell last week to discuss the purchase. They're excited to have some young energy in the neighborhood." The look on Margaret's face was priceless. The Mitchells were old money, the kind of people she desperately wanted to associate with but could never quite reach. "You had dinner with Helen Mitchell?" she whispered, looking faint. "She's an early investor in female-founded startups," I explained. "We met at a tech conference last year. Lovely woman. She mentioned you've been trying to join their country club. Tough luck about the waitlist." William squeezed my hand under the table, trying not to laugh. We both knew Margaret had been trying to get into that country club for a decade. This is, Margaret seemed to be struggling for words. "Karma?" I suggested. "Life has a funny way of working out, doesn't it? One day you're throwing tea at someone, calling them freeloading trash, and the next day." Robert's head snapped up. "She did what?" I pulled back my blazer slightly, showing the fading red marks. "Oh yes, yesterday was quite eventful. But don't worry, Margaret. I won't be pressing charges for assault. Consider it a parting gift, along with 2 years of rent payments we've made for that guest house. Which, by the way, we'll be vacating next week." Margaret collapsed into a chair, all her carefully constructed superiority crumbling around her. Robert looked between his wife and me, realization dawning on his face. "Margaret," he said slowly, "what have you done?" I didn't," she stammered. "Save it," William cut in. "We're done here. Dad, we'll send movers for our things next week. Mom, enjoy your tea." As we walked out of the kitchen, I paused at the door. "Oh, and Margaret," I smiled. "The next time you see me at a social event, and you will, the tech scene in Boston is quite well connected, try not to throw any beverages. Designer clothes are so hard to clean." The sound of Margaret's muffled sob followed us out of the house. As we walked back to the guest house, William pulled me close. "That was brilliant," he whispered, "especially the Mitchell house part." I grinned up at him. "Well, the house part wasn't a lie. We really are buying it." He stopped walking. "We are. Closed the deal this morning. Consider it my surprise wedding anniversary gift. A bit early, but," I shrugged. "I figured we deserved it." His laughter echoed across the garden, probably carrying all the way to the main house, where Margaret was undoubtedly still processing how thoroughly her world had just turned upside down. Sometimes, I reflected, success isn't just about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. 6 months after our confrontation in Margaret's kitchen, life had settled into a new rhythm. The Mitchell estate, our new home, felt like a sanctuary. Its sprawling gardens and sun-filled rooms were a far cry from the guest house we lived in. But more importantly, it was ours, something we'd earned together. The fallout from that morning had been spectacular. Margaret's social circle buzzed with the news, though her version differed significantly from reality. "Just a misunderstanding," she'd tell anyone who'd listen. We always knew Olivia had potential. The burn marks from her tea attack had faded, but the incident had left different kinds of marks on our family dynamics. Robert, to everyone's surprise, had emerged as an unexpected ally. One evening, he showed up at our door, looking uncomfortable but determined. "I let her behavior go unchecked for too long," he admitted, standing in our foyer. "I knew how she treated you, but I told myself it wasn't my place to intervene. I was wrong." He handed me a small package. Inside was a photo album, pictures of William growing up, family moments I'd never seen. "Margaret would never show you these," he said. "But your family, you always were, even when we didn't act like it." That gesture marked the beginning of a slow healing process. Robert started visiting regularly, eager to learn about my work. He'd built his own company years ago, and we found common ground discussing business strategies and industry trends. Margaret, however, took a different approach. After her initial shock wore off, she tried to rewrite history. Suddenly, she was telling everyone how she'd always supported my entrepreneurial spirit. At social events, she tried to position herself next to me, dropping hints about her brilliant daughter-in-law to anyone within earshot. I maintained a polite distance, responding to her attempts at reconciliation with civil but firm boundaries. The memory of that scalding tea and years of subtle cruelty wasn't so easily erased. One afternoon, as I was leaving a board meeting at MedTech Solutions, I ran into her at the local coffee shop. She was alone, looking smaller somehow without her usual audience. "Olivia," she called out, half rising from her seat. I've been hoping to run into you." I could have walked past. Part of me wanted to. Instead, I paused at her table. "Yes, Margaret." "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said, fidgeting with her coffee cup. "About how I treated you. About that day with the tea." She trailed off, looking lost. "And?" I prompted. "I was wrong," she whispered. "I was so focused on status, on what other people thought, that I couldn't see what was right in front of me. I'm sorry." I studied her face, searching for the manipulation I'd grown so accustomed to. Instead, I found something I expected, genuine regret. "Thank you for saying that," I replied carefully. "But trust, like respect, has to be earned. It can't be bought or manipulated into existence." She nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. "I understand. I miss William, and you. The house feels so empty now." "That's what happens when you let pride and prejudice drive away the people who could have been closest to you," I said, not unkindly. "But life gives us chances to learn from our mistakes. What we do with those chances is up to us." I left her there, thinking about second chances and the price of pride. That evening, over dinner with William in our new home, I told him about the encounter. "Do you think she means it?" he asked thoughtfully. "I think she's lonely," I replied. "And maybe for the first time, she's realizing that success isn't just about appearances." William reached across the table, taking my hand. "You're a better person than most, you know that? After everything she did." I smiled, thinking of the long journey that had brought us here. It's not about being better. It's about breaking cycles. Your mother treated me badly because she was insecure, trying to maintain an image she thought mattered. The best revenge isn't making her suffer, it's showing her there's a better way to live. The next week, we invited Robert and Margaret for dinner. It was a quiet affair, nothing like the grand social events Margaret used to orchestrate. But as we sat in our dining room, sharing a meal and cautiously rebuilding bridges, I realized something important. Success isn't just about proving people wrong or accumulating wealth. Sometimes it's about having the strength to remain open to healing, even after being hurt. It's about knowing your worth so completely that you don't need others' validation to feel secure. As I watched Margaret awkwardly but sincerely compliment the house's decor, I thought about that day 6 months ago when scalding tea and cruel words had marked more than just my skin. We'd all changed since then, some by choice, others by circumstance, but change, I was learning, wasn't always about dramatic confrontations and public victories. Sometimes it was about quiet moments of grace, about choosing to rise above past hurts while maintaining firm boundaries. It was about building something new, not from a place of revenge or resentment, but from a position of strength and self-assurance. The tea stains had long since faded from my white blouse. But the lessons remained. Success is the best revenge, but forgiveness, given wisely and with clear boundaries, can be the greatest victory of all.